When the Audi Q2 was unveiled at the Geneva Motor Show in 2016, it became a model that was greatly anticipated amongst fans of the brand because it offered some new and exciting styling and some marketing material that promised that it was very different to anything else on the road. Untaggable is what they called it. It wasn't just another Audi SUV with quattro all-wheel drive and the promise of adventure mixed in with everyday driving enjoyment. So, what was it? With all the hype around the Q2, I was very much looking forward to getting my hands on one, even though I wasn't convinced by its styling. Well, initially. Now that I've spent some time with it, I really like the way it looks. For a while now, Audi's designs have been stylish but not very exciting. The Q2 brings with it some new ideas and does generate some genuine interest. The most standout bit is the carved-out shape just below the window line, which then results in some interesting shapes both in front and behind it. The contrasting C-pillar panels are a sort of similar idea to the blades on the R8, just miniaturized, providing some extra color and a bit of sporty intent. The rear also does things a little differently to the rest of the family. Rather than just being a slightly larger A3 or scaled down A5, it has its own take on what a hatch should look like. In front there are a lot of familiar Audi cues, the shape of the grille and the LED daytime running light pattern. And as you move on from there, you find that the Q2 isn't all that different from other Audis or other similarly sized cars around the same price. What are those cars, I hear some of you ask? The Q2 is a little bit shorter than the likes of the BMW X1 and the Mercedes-Benz GLA, so for me, its closest direct competition is the Mini Countryman, which is the closest in overall size, although the Q2 is a little bit more compact than that car, shorter wheelbase, smaller boot. I suppose it also depends on whose press you believe. Mini will tell you that their Countryman is a C-segment car, a hatchback like the VW Golf or Opel Astra, although its size and everything about it will tell you it's more of a compact SUV. Audi will tell you that the Q2 is an A0 SUV segment car, which is like a Nissan Juke, even though it's the same size as a Mini Countryman, which is a C-segment car, apparently. And then to add to the confusion, even though it looks like a compact SUV, when you drive the Q2, it really doesn't feel like one. Sure, you get the slightly raised driving position, but the ride setup is surprisingly sporty with good, confident handling, nice steering, and absolutely no interest in getting dirty. Oh, and there's no Quattro version either. Not yet, anyway. Any Q2 you happen to drive off the showroom floor in the near future will be a front-wheel drive, and your gearbox choices will be either a 6-speed manual or 7-speed S-tronic dual clutch with shift paddles. Fortunately, there is a little bit more choice when it comes to the engines. There's a 1-litre 3-cylinder petrol, there's a 2-litre TDI, and there's the one we're driving, a 1.4-litre turbo petrol. 110 kilowatts, 250 newton meters, that can feel a little bit hesitant when you put your foot down and then deliver a bit of torque steer when you do, but generally the power matches the chassis very well and it will deliver a bit of driving fun when you want it to. The Q2 is the most un-SUV-like compact SUV I've ever driven. For its size, it feels amazingly agile. It doesn't mind corners and doesn't start leaning all over the place and feeling all soft when you throw it a few challenges. The optional Drive Select system also encourages you to switch it into dynamic mode and take advantage of the sharper throttle and steering. After a very short time behind the wheel, I got the impression that this is a compact SUV that really feels like it wants to be reassigned as a hatchback. For all its different looks and its pleasantly involving drive, the least surprising thing about the Q2 is the interior. That's not to say it's bad, but if you've seen any new Audi in the last few years, you'll know exactly what to expect. Slick layout, solid build, and more toys than you can shake a stick at. Spoiler alert, a lot of the stuff in here is part of the 160,000 rands worth of options added to our test car. So, things you won't get in a standard Q2 include the virtual cockpit, the brushed aluminium, the leather, the navigation, and the panoramic roof. But you will get Audi's brilliant layout and generally nice-to-use interface. The cream-coloured seats are another sign that this isn't really the SUV for any kind of off-roading, but with decent rear space and a boot that'll swallow 1,000 litres of luggage, it's more than adequate for the everyday commute. You may see a lot of stuff about the Q2 being very different to the norm and challenging conventions, and in some ways it does. It has a surprisingly engaging drive for an SUV, and the styling is more adventurous than Audi's designs of the recent past. Okay, the interior is straight out of the Audi handbook, but generally it is a very good car. I'm just not convinced that it's all that unique. The Mercedes-Benz GLA and the Mini Countryman offer similar power and similar SUV attitude. And unfortunately for the Q2, they both also offer more space for less money. Decent power and a sorted chassis make the drive in Audi's compact SUV more involving than you might expect, especially when you add in the shift paddles of the S-tronic gearbox and the optional drive select. Good looking and with a typically Audi interior, the Q2 is a good option, but it's certainly not as unique as the advertising hype would have you believe, and it's also not cheap.